Welcome back to Rodecast, guys. Hope you're all doing well out there. I'm your host, Rod, as always. And in this video, we're going to be talking about over the last month, over 800,000 people having their legal status basically revoked, at least partially, to the point where they can be deported. So the cases are not complete, but nevertheless, Trump has been granted the ability to swiftly deport these people, these 800,000 people. Biden found legal ways, technically, because the president allowed it, it became legal, but there's no vetting, no real vetting of these people. We have no idea who these people are. I'm sure some of them are actual refugees, but it doesn't matter. America has no obligation to help any of these people. The only country that we have any moral obligation to help is England, where the founding fathers came from, where the Constitution was drawn from. The Constitution of the US is based on the English Bill of Rights from 1689 and the Magna Carta. Those are the two main documents that influenced the founding fathers in the writing of the US Constitution. The only country we have a moral obligation to help is if England was ever under attack from some country, then I would be okay with accepting English refugees. That's the only country in the world, the only country that directly influenced and was that America was designed by and designed based on was England. So we have a moral obligation to help English people, if the ethnic English people, if they're ever attacked. That is my belief based on history, then based on our moral obligations to the founding fathers. Other than that, there's no other country that we owe anything to. So all these people need to be deported ASAP immediately because they have no right to come here. I don't give a damn about your humanitarian whining.
The Supreme Court ruled the Trump administration is allowed to revoke protected status for over 500,000 migrants in the U.S. on a humanitarian parole program that was started under the Biden administration. The 532,000 migrants currently in the U.S. under the program came from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, and were legally allowed to live and work in the U.S. for up to 2 years while their asylum cases made its way through the courts. But now the High Court says
9 out of 10 asylum cases are dismissed because they're freaking lying about being oppressed or somehow in danger. 9 out of 10. That's immigration court statistics that the left doesn't like to talk about. So these people would have been dismissed anyways, but it would have just taken longer because every case would have to be litigated at an individual level. So that's what this suit was about. So these people sued, and some Massachusetts bleeding heart immigrant descended Judge Indira Talvani, of course, not a real American and never will be. She decided that the Trump administration could not sweep this class of people, and they had to give each one long, drawn-out hearings. Every single one of the 500,000 plus, we are obligated, according to this lunatic judge, we are obligated to give them court hearings. That is their version of due process, aka bankrupt us, to get rid of these people who should have never been here in the first place. That is her idea. So that her decision was what actually went up to the Supreme Court. Okay, not Trump's ability to deport. Of course, he has the ability to deport, but how fast can he deport them? That was the real question. Okay, like I've always said, the courts have no right to tell the president what to do when it comes to the broad policies regarding immigration. But the specific details, those can be hashed out because of individual rights claims that people make under the 14th Amendment and other laws, federal laws, Title VI, federal laws that have been passed, which are bleeding heart laws to protect these foreigners who should have no rights whatsoever. But according to how the legal system is now, these people are given rights because a bunch of, the white guilt-ridden basically Anglo-Saxons and other white people who have such guilt over slavery that they want to give rights to every foreigner or from around the world. They don't even care about black people anymore. They're done with that. Okay. Now it's Mexicans and Hispanics and every other minority in the world. Not minority, but foreigners in the world. They become a minority when they come here. That's a clue that they shouldn't be here. But anyways, they have expanded their white guilt from black people to everybody in the world. Now we have to care about everybody. America has some kind of moral obligation to random losers around the world, and we have to take care of them. This is the idea of the left, and that's why they're so hell-bent on keeping these people here. And thankfully, the Supreme Court is helping Trump get rid of them, and that's awesome. Okay, so this judge tried to basically force Trump and the Homeland Security and ICE to give each of these people long court proceedings before we get rid of them. But the Supreme Court has said you don't have to do that. You can start deporting them immediately. as a class, not based on individuals, okay? Because individual determinations. They weren't let in based on individual determinations. They were let in en masse by Biden. Okay. And they did not do vetting despite the lies of Alejandro Mayorkas. Okay. Literal sex traffickers and gangbangers have been let in by this program. Fake sponsors were used to let these people in, as this video will describe.
Trump can restart deportations of this subset of migrants, and in a separate ruling earlier this month, granted the Trump admin permission to revoke temporary protected status for another 350,000 migrants from Venezuela. So between the two rulings, the Trump administration is now legally allowed to start deporting the near 1 million migrants in these two humanitarian programs. The entire case centers around this. On day one of his second term, President Trump ordered DHS to terminate the parole programs in an executive order. DHS says the parole programs were an abuse of the system.
They were bringing refugees, and I asked how they were vetted, how we were working with their home countries to find out who they really were, what their intentions were, and why they were coming to the United States, and received no information.
According to the DHS
I have got to say, I have not had a bigger change in opinion of a person than with Kristi Noem, who, when I was on the left, when I was a progressive, there's so much BS propaganda about how evil she was, and in the mainstream media about her fucking dog. I don't give a damn about what she did with her dog. She is awesome, okay? And I believe that she believes the same thing I believe, which is that she doesn't want any immigrants coming here, legal or otherwise. Though she has to say, oh, we're for legal immigration. That's the line of the Republicans. Hopefully most of them don't believe it. But anyways, either way, I don't believe in any immigration. This is not their country. Nobody has a right to come to America. None, okay? Unless you can prove blood relations to the founding fathers, I don't want to hear about your rights. And you have no right to come here, okay? But anyways, I think Kristi Noem believes what I believe. And but either way, her actions speak louder than words, and she's been not only getting rid of illegals, but also going after every single legal pathway that we can go after to get rid of people who have come here. So I'm very happy with Kristi Noem. It's probably the best decision that Trump made to put her in power. I'm very thankful that she is. I'd vote for her for president. Kristi Noem is awesome.
And received no information.
According to the DHS humanitarian program that allowed in 532,000 migrants, each applicant had to pass a vetting process, The
vetting process was just asking questions to the people. They didn't go back to Venezuela and ask, well, try to find out who these people were. There's no way we can do that because we don't have the ability to do that. The Venezuelan government will not release like intimate details and criminal records of their citizens. That's a fact. Okay, so there was no way for them to verify if these people had criminal records. Zero. So there was no vetting done. It's a giant lie that Mayorkas told people. In a congressional hearing, he said, oh yeah, we're vetting these people. By that, he meant we're interviewing them and they're lying their asses off and we're pretending like it's true information and we're passing it off as vetted people. None of them were vetted. Not really. Okay, some of the details they have given may be correct, just personal details, but they're not going to tell you if they're a criminal, if they've been arrested in their country. How are you going to know that? And these countries don't make their criminal databases available to us, and neither should they. They're sovereign countries too. So I don't expect that from them. But the point is, we shouldn't be taking them in anyways. We shouldn't be having to vet them. Why are my tax dollars as a real American being spent on foreigners being able to come here? And the left doesn't have a good question for that other than we love them for some reason, and we love them more than you, meaning me, American citizen, and we're going to spend the money anyways. That's the Democrats' idea. Now, I don't like Trump and I don't like the Republicans, so I'm so glad that Democrats are not in power. They are disgusting. They care more about dirty foreigners more than they care about me and the rest of the American people who actually have ancestors that built this country. They have active hatred towards the descendants of the Anglo-Saxons who settled here and built this country starting in the 1600s. Okay, they have active hatred for people who descend from Jamestown and also from Plymouth Colony, which are two of the settlements that were first established in North America by the English. So they have active hatred for white people while trying to help foreigners by using our money. That's what they're doing.
Domestic sponsor and not be flagged for trying to enter the U.S. illegally. However, under a government agency's review of the program, they discovered thousands of instances of fraud with sponsor applications. According to an audit by the head of Immigration Records and Identity Services and a review by the House Judiciary Committee, Some of the instances of alleged fraud and abuse included gang members and sex traffickers signing up as sponsors to bring in migrant women, more than 80,000 non-citizens signing up to accept parolees, an undisclosed amount of dead people were signed up as sponsors, and single home addresses were used for dozens of applications. In her dissent to the
great vetting, Alejandro Mayorkas and his DHS. They were on the side of the foreigners more than they were of Americans. Some of these people killed Americans after they came here. And Mayorkas doesn't care because he's an immigrant. He has sympathy for these people just because they're immigrants. They could be rapists and murderers and they'll let them in because again, white guilt and just this broad idea that everybody has a right to come to America, which is pulled right out of their ass because it's not in the Constitution or anywhere else because this country doesn't belong to them.
The Supreme Court ruling, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote the High Court's choice to allow hundreds of thousands of migrants to become deportable after being invited into the U.S. by the government to escape unsafe conditions abroad is the wrong decision. And
well, they were invited by the wrong government. Now Biden's government is no longer in power. That's what happened. That's called democracy. So Ketanji Brown Jackson needs to stop whining and start caring about her own people. She is descended from the slaves that were taken in the 1600s. She should be caring about black people instead of whining about these so-called migrants, aka illegals, who should have never been allowed here in the first place. This is a problem. People abandon their own to care about people who have nothing to do with them, who they have no relations to.
Will hurt migrant communities. Jackson wrote, no one disputes that
I don't give a damn about migrant communities. They shouldn't even be in America in the first place. Drag their asses out of here.
Social and economic chaos will ensue if that many non-citizen parolees are suddenly and summarily remanded. She warned of dangers in their native countries.
We have nothing to do with their native countries. Those dangers were created by themselves and their own people, and they need to go back and solve their own problems, not run away to America and cause problems here. I don't care what their native country's problems are. People have to solve their own problems. They can't run to America every time their country has a problem.
They will return to destructive family separation, and the ruling would
I love family separation. Keep them together, deport them together, separate them, whatever. Do whatever you need to do. Just get them out.
Facilitate needless human suffering before.
Don't care. Some people deserve to suffer, especially if you broke into George Washington's country and you have no right to be here.
Have reached a final judgment regarding the legal arguments at issue.
Because the president has the right to determine foreign policy, and foreigners coming into our country is foreign policy. So in the end, in the lower courts, in the appeals courts, the federal appeals courts, and in the district court, in the end, he will win. Well, in the district court, he won't win because this judge is she just thinks that everybody in the world has a right to come to America. That's what Judge Talwani believes. She doesn't care about the law, and she certainly doesn't care about preserving the heritage of this country. She hates the founding fathers. She hates the fact that they were English, and she doesn't care about the law, and she doesn't care about the sovereignty of the president and his power to execute on foreign policy. She has no respect for the Constitution. She wants to control what the government does. She's not even elected to anything. Okay, she was appointed by Biden, I believe, or some other Democrat, and she doesn't care about the president's power and the power that was granted to the presidency, the executive branch, by the founding fathers. So she has no respect for America or the law. She just wants to make sure that these dirty illegals can stay here forever. That's her only goal. Okay. And more, just to show you how unbiased I am, this judge has also blocked Trump's effort to deport a bunch of Ukrainians who were also let in here. And I support them being deported too. I don't care how white they are, okay, which is what the left always says. Oh, if they're white people, they're okay. No, they're not okay because Ukrainians didn't build America either. They have just as much right to be here as these Venezuelans and all these Africans or not Africans, excuse me, most of them are like Latin Americans. So they don't have a right to be here. Neither do the Ukrainians. Okay. And in this one, Trump will also win because these people have no right to be in America. Okay. After their parole expires, they'll be going back to Ukraine. And if they have a problem with Russia, that's for them to solve. The American people should not be burdened with taking in a bunch of Ukrainians who have no right whatsoever to be here. There were exactly 0 Ukrainians here in the 16 and 1700s, where the foundations of America were being built. So they have no right, no claim to this land. Again, English people can claim some kind of right to be in America because this used to be an English colony. America is based on English history and law. Literally, our legal systems are lifted from England. We owe a lot to England, despite the problems that the founding fathers had with the King of England at the time. Our whole society is descended from England. From the law to our customs to everything that exists in America is from England. We owe a lot to England, despite the problems we had in the 1700s. And the English people are the only people we have some obligation to help. But I'm not saying we have to. I'm just saying that's something that we could do, and I'll be okay with that. I would be okay with my tax dollars helping English people because we have some kind of relation to them. We owe them at least a little bit for what America is today. So that's the only country that we have an obligation to help. Everybody else, they're just getting gravy, and the gravy train is over. So I'm glad Trump is trying to get rid of these people too. None of these people have a right to be here, taking American jobs, taking American housing that is a very big issue for actual Americans here. Okay, which is out of control. We need to ban all these foreigners, these Saudis and other rich people from coming here and buying our property too. That's another thing we need to do. So the awesome all around. Like I said, I can't be more happy with what Trump is doing on immigration, at least. On many other things, I disagree with them, but on immigration, he's been excellent. I'd rate him at 95% out of 100. Amazing. No other president has tried this hard to get the foreigners out of here, and it's awesome. So, like I said, at the end of the day, this will go up to Supreme Court again for the final time to determine the ultimate outcome. And Trump is going to win because the president has power over foreign policy, and the Supreme Court has done the right thing in most occasions and kept the power of the president intact that the founding fathers wanted. They did not want Congress determining what foreign policy is. Congress has the right to fund it or not fund foreign policy, whatever a president is doing, but they can't make the decision. That's up to the president. The judges have no control over foreign policy. Their only power is over the jurisdictional authority, the land that belongs to the U.S. government. They have power over that land. So over domestic policy, over Doge, and all these other, criminal justice, whatever, or business issues, they have jurisdiction because those are domestic issues. When it comes to foreign policy, Article 3 courts, including the Supreme Court, cannot tell the president what to do on the ultimate decision he makes about like due process claims and other small things here and there like this. They can adjudicate that. But the ultimate decision of what to do, whether to deport these people or not, that is up to the president, Homeland Security Secretary, Secretary of State, and ICE. They're the agencies, the federal executive agencies in charge of running that foreign policy determination. And like I said, foreigners coming to America is a foreign policy issue. Immigration is a foreign policy issue. So the president and the executive branch are the ones who have ultimate authority to determine what to do. The judges cannot tell the president, oh, we want these people here, so you have to keep them. That's exactly what Talvani is saying. She's trying to take power away from the president and give it to herself. She can't do that. That's why she lost at the Supreme Court. Her and, the people who filed this lawsuit. But it was her decision that went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, no, she's wrong, and Trump can start deporting these people. Because it's not up to her. And she needs to understand that all these bleeding heart judges who love foreigners more than Americans need to understand that they don't have the power to force the president to choose foreigners over our own people. It's disgusting what the Democrats represent. They care more about Abrego Garcia than Lake and Riley. That's the disgusting state of the Democratic Party, and that's why they will keep losing national elections until they change their position on immigration and start caring more about American citizens than foreigners. But I don't suspect that will be forthcoming from their side. They'll continue to completely decline as a party. That is a wonderful thing too. And that's all I got to say for this video. I'll see you guys in my next one, as always.